So here's the last question that we have from our patrons. Please ask him if he thinks deeply at all about how his satire is Christlike. It seems to go too far. He isn't just mocking ideas. I'm at times even embarrassed that he is one of us.
I really think that if I were to say some things that Jesus said directly out of Scripture to anyone in the world today, I think Christians would be embarrassed. How dare you say this? I believe that if I were to say things,
mocking.
Yeah, like Jesus. When Jesus is saying, you whitewashed tombs, you brood of vipers. If I were to say that to anyone, if I were walking down the street and I saw some people who were non-Christians, and I'm sitting there going, you brood of vipers, you whitewashed tombs, right? Christians would say, my gosh, you can't talk like this. That's not loving. Now, I view that as loving because I view that as exactly what those people needed to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I view that as the most loving thing Jesus could say to them at that point.
That's actually a really good distinction between okay, so you can mock, but if you're mocking out of love, that's a different situation.
Yeah.
But the difficulty, I guess, is being able to do that in love. I think that that's what a lot of people have issue with. So would you say that when you do mock and you do this kind of satire, that you're doing it out of love? And how do you maintain that?
Yeah,
it seems kind of difficult.
No, that is. I mean, I look at this. Islamicized me is a perfect example. So we did an entire series trying to bring out all of the silliness of Muhammad's teachings. And keep in mind, everyone, this is not us mocking Muslims. This is us. We are mocking, but we're mocking Muhammad and his teachings. And you find the same thing with someone like Jesus when he says to the scribes and Pharisees, "You strain out a gnat but swallow a camel." He's mocking them because they sit there and they strain their water through little strainers and stuff to make sure that they don't swallow a gnat. It's a tiny, unclean creature. So they want to make sure that they don't swallow that. But they're committing horrible injustices in what they're doing to people. So saying you're straining out a gnat, but you're swallowing a camel. They're not actually swallowing a camel. He's mocking them for their meticulousness in trying to observe the law while violating the law in much more serious ways. So again, I believe that Jesus was being as he was telling them exactly what they needed to hear. As far as maintaining love in something like Islamicized me, where we're showing how silly Muhammad's teachings were. That was basically inspired by a true story. Vocab was friends with a jihadi, a guy who went out and died trying to kill Robert Spencer and Pamela Geller. He was on his way, he had his guns, and he got shot in the process. This was a convert to Islam. He believed in Islam, and he believed, after he studied Islam, that his main job is to go out and kill unbelievers in the name of Allah.
Wow.
So he concluded that. And Vocab had talked to him. Guess what? The guy didn't believe the gospel. And I really believe someone like that. And Christians, think about this. You've got jihadis going around the world believing that their greatest job in life is to slaughter unbelievers in the name of Allah, killing Christians in churches, killing Christians in hotels. The teachings that give rise to that, I think if anything is worthy of mockery, then those teachings are. And if mockery will help those, will help someone. See, that's the thing. The guy did not respond to the gospel. If someone had laid out all of Muhammad's silly teachings to him, one, I don't believe he would have converted if he had been aware of those things before he converted. Two, if he were already a Muslim and he really saw all of these odd things that the vast majority of Muslims know nothing about, their leaders do not present these things to them. We bring them out.
That was actually something that Nabil pointed out in his book, is that a lot of the stuff that he was learning from you and everyone else is no one had ever told him any of this stuff. Even his dad was like, well, go read this book, and they'll address it there.
Yeah. So once all of that information is presented, he might leave Islam, or he might remain a Muslim. He might leave Islam and he might be more open to the gospel now. He might remain a Muslim, but what you're hoping is that even if he remains a Muslim, that by knowing all of that stuff, maybe he'll have some doubt. And if he has some doubt, maybe he's not going to go out and want to die for it. Mm-hmm. So basically, I view satire and things like that as one peaceful way that's not killing anyone, among many different ways of responding to a dangerous ideology. As far as doing this in love, that's the purpose. You look at someone like that, when there's a terrorist attack, it shouldn't just be, oh, look at the victims. It's, gosh, look at this guy who was manipulated by an ideology into thinking that his God wants him to go and slaughter all these people. You should be thinking, gosh, what happened to that guy? And so, that's the point, right? It's stopping all of that. And like it or not, the satire, the mockery, that is an effective way. We find in the Bible. We find Jesus doing it. We find Paul doing it. We find in the Old Testament. We find it in the New Testament. It's normally for certain situations, and the most common scenario where they use it is religious leaders who are misleading other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you see Elijah with the prophets of Baal. That's what you see Jesus with the Pharisees. They use it when it's mainly when it's a religious leader who's leading other people astray. And if that's sort of the biblical picture of when this method is appropriate, if it's acceptable with anyone, it's acceptable with Muhammad, because there's no one in all of history that I can think of who is misleading more people in a more dangerous way than that guy. So if it's acceptable anywhere, got to be acceptable there.
So if we can get a little technical for just a moment. So this strikes me as almost like a utilitarian reason for thinking that this is an appropriate thing to do. It's like for the overall good, for the most amount of people, this is what we should be doing. But that strikes me as like a sort of practical or utilitarian reason for doing something. But as I think that you subscribe to, utilitarianism is false. We shouldn't just do something because it's going to bring about the greatest good for something else. We should do something because it's the right thing to do. So how would you interact with that in your thinking?
Well, this isn't a utilitarian view of ethics. I think that practical considerations are valid, right? When Paul says, to the Jews, I became a Jew, and he's talking about, hey, there are certain things that are more effective in certain situations, and we need to be aware of that. So the basic idea is, hey, if this approach works, and it does. Several years ago, when I would actually skim through my YouTube comments every morning,
Mm-hmm.
I would take a screenshot of people who were leaving Islam and becoming Christians and so on. I'd take a screenshot and I would share it on Facebook. And I kept this up for about a month and a half, but I was posting between 1 and 3 short testimonies of people who were either leaving Islam or leaving Islam and becoming Christians. But I was posting between 1 and 3 a day just by reading through my daily comments.
How many of those do you think were genuine and were made up? Because I have atheists, I think they're atheists, commenting on my videos saying, well, now I'm an atheist because I watched this debate and this guy got crushed. And so now.
Yeah, I believe that most of them are
genuine,
authentic, because for a Muslim, it's embarrassing to say that a Muslim has left Islam. So I don't think Muslims are doing it. You could always have an atheist or something like that, or a Christian who wants to have a false testimony. Christians shouldn't be doing that. An atheist might just to be playing, but they generally seem to be sincere. And a lot of them came from people who have been arguing for Islam previously for years and so on. People who say, I really hated you for years, and hey, you can go back and look at my comments, but I just want you to know that I'm a Christian now. And so you do see it. And again, that was years ago. I only stopped doing that just because it was too time consuming to go through all my comments. But I've heard from tons of people who have left Islam. Some of them have not become Christians. Many of them have become Christians, but they over and over again, they say, hey, I really was mad at you. You enraged me. I couldn't stand you. I hated you. Some of them, I wanted to kill you. But thank you for ultimately sharing that with me. So
how do you handle death threats like that?
Well,
by the way,
I'm technically a psychopath, so it
doesn't affect you at all.
No, it's amusing.
What about your? You said it's amazing.
I said it's amusing.
Oh! I was
funny.
like, I thought you said it was amazing.
It is amazing. But.
Yeah. So okay. Well, now you have a family, right? And you have kids and everything. And so does that affect you now that you're having to take care of other people as well, not just yourself, or worry about yourself essentially?
It is a concern because look, if you want to chop my head off. I don't have a problem with it. But yeah, I do have a moral obligation to look out for my family. So yeah, I hope they don't get killed, but someone basically has to go out and deal with Islam. So we just have to be in danger.
Yeah, and you feel like this is what God has called you to do, essentially. I mean, otherwise I don't think you'd be doing it.
Yeah.
Right. So do you have anything else to add on this topic of mockery and satire and your approach to it?
Yeah, I mean, I would just, keep in mind the context and the situation, because I've actually heard from people online, and they'll say, hey, David, I just want you to know, I met some Muslims, and so I went after them like you went after them. No, I'm on YouTube, right? I'm not talking to some individual in a conversation.
Yeah.
You got to pay attention to the situation. But, at the end of the day, this can be an effective method of making points in certain contexts. But
you shouldn't be doing it all the time.
No, no, I don't do it all the time.
Yeah.
I'm doing it a lot because I think it needs to be done, and someone needs to be doing it. And so it's kind of like someone needs to have done this. I mean, there's terror, it's growing. We're kind of at emergency stage. So someone needs to be doing it a lot, but I don't think most people should be doing it. So practically, I think it needs to be done, and that it's something that can be effective. So the blocker for that would be if it's unbiblical. Because even if it's practical, if it's unbiblical, you shouldn't do it. But we look to the Bible, and especially in the context of religious leaders who are leading people astray, you do find that in the Bible. And so, again, if anyone should be subject to mockery and ridicule, it's Muhammad, because he's like a more extreme version of the people who are mocked and ridiculed in the Bible.
This brings up something else that I think people will probably accuse you of. Are you making these videos just for views, to get like more views and subscribers on YouTube?
No, I mean, I could be doing all kinds of things if I just wanted to do. I think if I made a really awesome philosophy channel, where I've wanted to do for years, make cool philosophy videos, but make them really cool. I think that would do well. I think I could do all kinds of things that would be effective on YouTube. It's really, at the end of the day, it's just the reason I'm dealing with Islam. I'm not interested in Islam. As far as what I would like to be studying, there are a million things I would rather be studying than Islam. I would rather be studying any branch of science. I would rather be studying any branch of philosophy, including continental philosophy, which I despise. I'd rather be doing any of that than studying Islam. It's just, I read the Muslim sources and I just want to go take a shower from all the horrible things in there. So it's not that I get enjoyment out of this. It's just I'm looking around at what I think is missing. And there, in apologetics, everyone's, most of the population of Christian apologists focusing on dealing with atheist objections and so on, and not nearly enough people dealing with Islam. So it's okay, I'm going to deal with Islam because there's not enough people dealing with it. So I'm going to deal with it because this needs to be done. And then within the realm of Christian apologetics dealing with Islam, someone needs to be going after Muhammad in an aggressive fashion. And so I'm going to do that. And so all of this is just me looking at what needs to be done that's not being done. And I'm going to do that. Eventually, if other people are doing it, then I would much rather be doing something else.